Hello, Rosebuds. Thanks for listening today. We have 3 stories for you. If you're new to our content, basically all of our ghost stories are either completely creative fiction or based on a true story. It's up to you to decide, but make sure to listen all the way to the end where we will reveal fiction or truth. Years ago, my husband and I traveled out of town so he could do some testing for the police department. We stayed the night in a Ramada Inn, I believe in San Luis Obispo, California or something. The plan was for him to wake up early and go do the testing, and I would hang out in the room until he was done. We arrived at the hotel late. It actually looked like an old apartment building that they renovated into a hotel. I don't even remember a lobby, just an office to get your room key. When we got to our room, we immediately got ready for bed since it was going to be an early day for my husband. We had just laid down and turned off the light. Now, my husband can fall asleep fast, whereas I have to unwind a bit first. It had only been a few minutes, and suddenly he screams out. He scared the crap out of me. I asked him what was wrong, and he said he felt like he was being choked. He was so tired, though, that he kind of mumbled this and then fell back to sleep. I honestly didn't think much of it because he'd recently just come back from deployment in Iraq. Bad dreams, night terrors were happening a lot. Early the next morning, he left and I stayed sleeping in the bed. I was in a state of sleeping, but a light sleep, as I kept thinking I should get up and get ready for the day. Then I started to dream that there were 2 people in the room with me, an older couple. She had on a robe and slippers, with her hair up in curlers. He had on a tank top with boxers, black socks, and those suspender things that hold up your socks. There was a suitcase at the bottom of the bed by my feet, an old-fashioned hard suitcase. It was open and laying flat, and they were packing it up. I kept thinking, why can't they see me here? I literally could feel the bed moving and hearing them talking. Eventually, I must have woken up and got in the shower, but I felt so uneasy the whole time I was getting ready. The discomfort became so uncomfortable that I eventually propped open my hotel room door just to hear some noise outside. My husband came back and we left. Later that day at a family barbecue, I overheard my husband telling his uncle that he didn't sleep well. He said he kept dreaming that he was being choked and yelled at by a man. He was laughing with his uncle and saying the guy must have been old because he'd been wearing those old-fashioned sock suspenders. I suddenly got goosebumps all over and went to ask him what he looked like again. I told him my story and we all just stood there creeped out and silent for a few moments. I thought I was dreaming, and so did he, but we both saw the same old couple. So, I have to wonder, was it a dream, or were we both reliving a moment in time where a crime was committed? Either way, it still creeps me out to this day. My sister used to live in a small town in Ontario that has a history. The historical home she lived in years ago was haunted, at least when I visited. On 2 separate visits, I was inappropriately touched while I was sleeping. On the first visit, my partner accompanied me. We were sleeping in the guest room, and I was woken up by what felt like fingers being very inappropriate. I sat up disoriented. I thought it was my partner at first and thought, what the f? But he was fast asleep, and from how I was positioned, it had to have come through the wall. Needless to say, I was freaked out. The next day, I asked my sister if she had any weird experiences, and she said no. I tried to just forget it, then came the next visit months later. It was just me this time, and I was apprehensive about sleeping in that room again. But since no one else had an experience in that house, I tried to chalk it up to dreams or something. So the first night it happened, again. The weird thing is, I was operating in this half-asleep state with my eyes still closed. I sat up and threw the color red at it and said in my mind, "You don't know who you are f***ing with." It didn't bother me again on that trip, and she moved a year later. She still claims to have never had any experiences in that house, but who knows. What I think about most was my knee-jerk reaction to throw the color red and my absolute confidence in whatever abilities I felt I had during that split second. The reaction was completely subconscious, and I still wonder how I knew what to do. Despite having other random ghostly experiences in my life, I've never had an encounter like that. Has anyone else experienced something like this? If so, what does throwing the color red mean? Thanks in advance. So the other day, I was helping move some furniture for a neighbor I'll call Nancy. My next door neighbors had abandoned their place, and the furniture had been moved out onto the veranda. Nancy wanted some of it, so I helped her move it into her apartment. In thanks, I got to keep a few things for myself, including an old mirror. I joked with Nancy that the mirror was probably cursed or something. But I took it home anyways, cleaned it, and set it in the living room, because I was a little bit uneasy about bringing old mirrors into my home. For the time it was in the living room, all was fine. However, the night I put it in my bedroom, that changed. I was trying to sleep when I kept hearing the fan making weird noises. It had that sound fans kind of make when something moves in front of it, making the sound shift around. It happened often enough that it woke me out of sleep. As I was coming out of it, I felt someone scooting past my hammock. I sleep in a hammock due to chronic pain. I even felt them pause right at my head for a moment. I thought it was my husband at first, but when I opened my eyes, he was in his own bed, dead asleep. Every time I started to fall back asleep, I'd feel someone moving around and hear the fan doing weird things. It got to the point that I woke up and grumpily crawled into my husband's bed. The next day I told my husband about it. I had already thought to myself, maybe it has something to do with the mirror, but I was skeptical. Then, without me even stating what I was thinking, my husband says, "You don't think it was the mirror, do you?" As of late, he's been having trouble sleeping as well. I'm still not sure if it's the mirror, but I do believe it's possible. I also believe it could just be that we're going through some worrisome times right now and are stressing ourselves into restless sleep. But it was still very strange, the coincidence of the mirror and feeling someone was brushing past my hammock and such. I consider myself a skeptical believer. I do believe in the paranormal, as I've had more than enough odd things happen in my life that I can't explain. But I also believe that many things can be explained with rationale. So I'm still a little iffy on whether or not it's the mirror. Either way, I'm about to cleanse it so I can use it for my altar and hope nothing else walks through my room. I also need to add that this isn't the first time something has walked through our room at night, even before getting that mirror. I have wards and things up, but it seems that sometimes things still slip through. I hope you all enjoyed those stories today. Before I reveal which stories were true and which were fiction, I wanted to let you know that if you'd like to submit your own creative fiction or true ghost tale, we're going to be running a story contest soon where you can not only be featured on our channel, but have a chance to win $100 and some cool merch. So sign up for our newsletter at blackrosereads.com and we'll let you know about that when we release it. I'll have a link in the description below. Also, if you're a writer of any kind and you want to support our channel, check out our exclusive journal collection on our other website, blackrosepress.art. I will also have that link in the description below. Now, for the reveal. The first tale, Ghost Story or Dream, is based on a true story by Shan Serve. Thank you. Our second story, Haunted Mirror, also based on an alleged true story by Zach the Fair 86. And our third story, Inappropriate Ghostly Encounter, was submitted by Thalia Donovan 13 and is a true story. Thanks for those stories and thanks for listening today, Rosebuds. We will see you again in a few days for another volume of Ghost Tales to Tell in the Dark.